Hello, I'm Shieldwall100 and welcome back to Gotham, to a bit of a waterfront promenade I thought I'd try out today. Yes, a bit of parking along the seafront there. And yes, today we're having another Batman Miniatures game 3rd edition game report. This time we've got another new crew to show you off. I've been holding off on this one a little bit because I was just waiting to see what the new traits were, etc. And thanks to some help from people on Discord, I sort of teased out the details. And we're having the Penguin finally taking on the Bat family in a very chalk and cheese kind of game, because the Bat family has very few models, and the Penguin, you can really go to town and have a humongous crew if you really want to, and you'll see the sort of thing I'm talking about in a bit when I discuss his crew makeup for today. But yes, got his objective deck through, very keen to start using it, but yeah, I really wanted to make sure I actually got down what his actual traits were changing to, because I knew he was undergoing quite extensive alterations. Right, yes, so please check out the description below for a look at the for a link, to the Top Hatted Hamster game store, and where you can get 10% off your first or next order. And yes, without further ado, let's look at who's participating in today's game. Well, yes, and finally, as I said, the Penguin steps out of the shadows and into Gotham as I use him for the first time in my game reports. Finally, I'm so happy to see him. Been watching Gotham, the series, actually, funnily enough, recently. Wow, that's some schlock, but I love it. Anyway, yes, so good to have Oswald on the stage here. Okay, right, using the guy from originally the sculpts from the 2nd edition Bat Box to lead the crew here. This version of the Penguin. Focus, please. Focus, Timothy. Yeah, he's a good all-rounder. He's mainly he used to. I mean, I played Penguin back in 1st edition, so I mainly think about how he was back then. Lots of guns, lots of. He was able to build a whole very powerful crew of like free agents and things like that as well. And still the same here. He can take additional free agents. Haven't really used that this time. I think his objective deck plays more to larger crews, so expensive free agents. Maybe not what I'm after this time. I'm trying to get a feel for how his deck works. Pardon me for missing with the light there just a second ago. Yes, but yeah, he's not particularly powerful. He's certainly no Batman or anything like that, or Bane, or he's not even a Harvey Dent, to be honest. Not even a Two-Face. But he can hold his own. He's got some vicious weaponry, so don't let him near you if you're unconscious. He'll shank you hard. But lots of his traits are to do with building the actual crew itself, and that's still the same here. So yeah, he gets additional funding for gunnage, which you'll be seeing evidenced throughout the rest of the crew, and all sorts of bits and pieces which we'll come into regarding his business counters as the game progresses. But yeah, he's in here. Haven't chosen not to give him his massive duck transport, despite having it fully painted and rather nicely too, I may add. It's the sort of thing which really comes into its own, I think, if you're using his penguins, and as you can see, there's no evidence of small animals here. So we're not going with a penguin heavy list in this penguin crew. We're not going with the animals with guns strapped to them route, which I could do, but I decided to go for humans first this time before I get into it too much, because they've changed the rules for how the penguins themselves work as well. So I'm going to wait for the actual official rules for me to actually sit down and read to come out before I do that. But let's get on. Rest of the crew then. We've got Catwoman as a free agent because I think she'll fit in really well in this crew, and really like the model. Wanted a chance to use her again. I think she's going to fit in, I hope, with some of these objective cards too, but we'll see as the game progresses. The rest of the crew has, out of the only other really odd one is Slipknot there. You can see his nondescript black outfit. He's the guy from the Suicide Squad film who gets like 2 minutes of time and blows up. Sorry, spoilers everyone for that film, which you probably, if you haven't seen it yet, then you're probably not going to. So there you go. He's alright in the game. He's a generic henchman stat line with a grapple gun. So I took him because I had some points left at the end and I needed some mobility. That's all. I had some funding to spare too, so there you go. Otherwise, the rest of the thugs are all various iterations of Penguin's guys. You've got Loose Lips here. He is actually a sidekick, believe it or not, despite being his very henchman-like appearance. He's actually a character-ish from the Arkham Origins video game. He's Penguin's sidekick there, so to speak, so he gets psychic rank in this. He's quite handy. He's got some useful rules. He enabled Slipknot here to take a radio at half price for the last bit of funding the crew had, so I'll definitely take that. These guys over here, though, are again from the 2nd edition Bat Box, which has just been re-released. Not literally just been re-released in the new resin, which is superior, if you ask me, for the actual overall quality. And yeah, you got guy. This is actually the old. This is a kind of revamped version of the original Penguin Elite Thug. He's got an electric baton there, and he's got some body armor. And this guy has got a pretty useful assault rifle, dashed useful, I'll say. See whether it's actually that useful against the acrobatics of the Bat family. But that said, throw enough shots downrange, something might hit, and he hits hard. These guys over here are all 1st edition models. I feel comfortable using these again because I've just paid out for some top-hatted hamster 1st edition cards to upgrade them to the 3rd edition format. Completely optional, and you can use your original cards. All these models are actually completely usable as is in the game. It's just I like to have the updated format, so it inspired me to take the models again. And yes, like I said, I played with these guys in 1st edition. These two, specifically ones at the front, these are very badly statted. Attack and defense 2 apiece, which is abominable in the 3rd edition. These guys are here simply to get knocked out in sufficient amounts to provide cover for the rest of the crew, put down some suspect markers perhaps, but really not much else. We're not expecting much from them, even the guy with the gun. Whoop, hey, they might surprise me, but I doubt it. And the Royal Penguin at the back is one of the original Penguin henchmen. I have many fond memories of him gunning people down in 1st edition, and yeah, he's basically like a 1st edition version of this guy, slightly worse, very slightly, but still toting that vicious firearm. Okay, well, that concludes the Penguin crew. I really don't know how it's going to perform, but we have 9 models, which is a big crew for my games, and yeah, there's not much quality. They're relying on quantity being a quality of its own. Let's just put it that way, with the exception of Catwoman. Right, let's move on to the Bat family. And here's the Bat family. Markedly less models, but markedly more colours than the Penguin crew. Yeah, it's the same configuration I usually take. I just keep coming back to this configuration. I did try to mix it up. I tried to put an actual version of Batman in, but I haven't got Adam West painted yet, and I wasn't sure he'd fit anyway. But also, I just can't seem to get a Batman in without having to compromise somewhere else, which in a way I don't really like doing so. I really like having Nightwing. I really like having Batwoman, but I'd swap her out for a Batman, but I just can't seem to get everyone in I want to without really seeming to ease up on the punchiness somewhere else. A lot of the lists I come to end up taking Oracle. But since she's Intel support, she doesn't actually have a board presence, and I just think that's too much of a sacrifice to make when you have so few models to start with, when you really need to be hopefully trying to even the odds in terms of numbers as quickly as possible. But hey, I don't know, I'll probably experiment on my own in future, but I thought if I'm doing a filmed version, I'd wanted to show a decent list, a decent game, and this is certainly an exciting configuration. Even if they lose, it tends to make for good games, so that's what's important for me. But yes, it's the same configuration. We have Batwoman, Nightwing, Red Hood, and Damian Wayne Robin, all very hard hitting, very fast, survivable in various ways, either through armor or acrobatics or both. And yes, plenty of grapple guns to give them extra mobility as well. Less than half the models of the Penguin crew, so we'll see how that focuses up. The objective cards I've taken in this team are mainly focused around beating the living snot out of your opponents and taking them off the board one way or the other, because that's really what you've got to go for with this crew, in my mind. You've got to try. They'll be hitting hard, trying to even the odds down. The flip side of this is that a lot of the cards which are deal with dealing damage and taking enemy models out don't tend to score so highly. So the overall score ceiling for this team is much lower than your average crew. But if they can just stop the Penguin from scoring his cards, then that should work out quite nicely for them anyway. Okay, and yeah, we'll be seeing how they deal with old stacks so heavily against them, shall we, this time. Right, let's get on and do some deployment. Right, deployment is now complete and all the pre-game setup now concluded. I can show you who's where. The plunder deployment zones was drawn from the deck. As you can see, it's kind of side to side, same as usual, but you've got 2 little rectangles in each corner instead of having the whole board edge, for example. And also both sides have put down 2 additional suspect markers on the board, and I'll show you where they are as well. But first of all, let's just start with showing you where Penguin's crew is. Penguin himself you might see him skulking under the shadow of the dino gas there, along with the shield henchman and his electric stun baton guy, shall I say. The one of the guys with the AK-47s, or assault rifles actually, sorry, is on top of the dino gas itself. I can just show you that there's one of the very low level goons hiding around the side as well. On the other side of their deployment zone, you've got Slipknot there, ready to use his grapple gun most likely. There's roofs and whatnot to exploit. Catwoman, Loose Lips, and the other guy with the assault gun rifle, sorry, will be bring up the rear, hopefully to get inspired in a bit as the first turn progresses. In terms of their additional suspect markers, there's one on the corner of the dino gas and one out in the middle of the road there. The Bat family, I can show you that you can easily see that Nightwing and Red Hood are over in this side, or this corner, shall I say, and I'll just have to come around to show you where the other 2 are, because you can see that Batwoman and Damian Wayne Robin are in the shelter of the buildings there. The Bat family's extra suspect markers are there's one here in the middle of the table almost, and one right at the back. It's outside the deployment zone, so it's legal to put there. They didn't really have any plans for it yet, so having one right up against the board edge won't hopefully get in the way of anything they want to play as the game progresses. Okay, we're ready to go now. I'm going to find out who's going to score what and whatnot, and who's got initiative in the first 2 phases of the first turn, and I'll be back to report in after that. Okay, the take the lead and raise plan phases for turn 1 are both now complete. In the first phase, the Bat family played Die Hard as an objective. We've seen this lots and lots of times before. It's a neutral card. It scores 2 points at the end of this turn if Nightwing here is still alive. That's what they're going with. It should be quite simple, because first turn there's not an awful lot of damage coming each side's way usually. But yeah, so 2 points there if Nightwing is either not KO'd or is still on the board basically. So yeah, nice. No other cards played by either side in either of the phases. The Bat family won the first turn with an initiative roll of 5 to 4, them being in the blue, so they'll be going first. And right, on to who's got Audacity. Well, for the Bat family it's every model, because there are 4 Audacity points, and 4 Audacity counters shall I say, and 4 models. Makes it simple, that's why I like using them so much. For the Penguin crew, I'll just actually traverse around again. Won't have to do this every turn, thank goodness, because the board will shrink as the game goes on, as models get closer together. But you can see that Catwoman and Slipknot both have Audacity, and over here Penguin himself, of course, and his Electro Stun Baton Elite guy, okay, also has Audacity. Only 4 Audacity counters amongst 9 models, but Penguin's got a little way to mitigate that, as we'll see hopefully as the game progresses. Right, okay, ready to start activating models. Let's get this shindig started. Okay, well, Bat family did have the initiative, but they elected to pass. They have a copious number of passes due to the disparity between the number of models. They've actually got 4 passes. Would have been 5 normally actually, but the presence of Loose Lips on the Penguin crew reduces that by 1 against the Bat family. But only 4 passes, huh? Well, they used one, so Catwoman activated for Penguin first. She had Audacity, as you recall, and she just moved forwards up the board and used her Audacity to pop down a suspect marker, which, as you know, she uses cats as suspect markers instead of actual standard suspect markers. They treat the same, but they've got some Catwoman related rules tied into them. We've seen her before, hopefully you might recall, or seen her before, but yeah, there you go. And right, so we're going to go back now, see if Bat family are going to respond or if they're going to pass again. Okay, the first edition thug is how I'm going to refer to him, with the handgun activated next, having the Bat family again having to pass. They don't see any reason to reveal where they're going with such a small number of models against such a firepower heavy crew as Penguin. So yes, they're gonna play coy. At least they think they might. He moved forwards, this thug did, and he popped down a suspect marker because he is inspired by the presence of Penguin back here. Even though he was around the corner, he was still within 12 inches, so that's good enough. Popped down a suspect, and funny enough, it actually punishes the Bat family because he was able to play Goods Raid as an objective from the hand. It's played in this third phase, and it's an instant score for 2 points. So a friendly model places a suspect, and you have at least 2 more suspects in play than your opponent, more or less. And yes, so there's 1, 2, 3 and the cat marker 4 for Penguin, and only the 2 starting ones for the Bat family. So yes, the Bat family's dithering has actually cost them a couple of points as the Penguin takes an early lead on the scoreboard. But yeah, plenty still to go in this game, and yeah, they don't think the Bat family are going to worry about 2 points. But yes, that was not what they kind of wanted. They've been caught napping almost. This playing cagey has cost them. Red Hood activated for the Bat family, sick of having to stay at the back whilst the opponents take all the initiative from them. He, yeah, the headstrong young ex-Robin activated and moved up and removed the suspect marker that the Penguin had in the middle of the road, because yes, it's too dangerous leaving Penguin suspect markers lying around, is his opinion. So there you go. He couldn't do anything else. He couldn't use his special action or anything, and he would use his tactical action to pick up the suspect marker, so can't put one down of his own. But yes, that's his first one. He is, however, in a very central part of the board, so he's looking to be able to dominate next turn, maybe get into some fisticuffs or something. Penguin Thug 2 from the Bat box, his name's Tanner, I think, actually, on his profile. He activated, he didn't have Audacity, but he was inspired by Penguin's presence down below. He moved forwards and revealed the Penguin suspect marker just there, and in doing so played valuable commodities from the hand as an objective. We've seen it lots before, so don't be scared about the text. It's 3 victory points if at the end of the game this loot marker is still on a Penguin model. Basically, easy enough to do that. The rest of the text is round about, you know, what happens if he gets knocked out or killed or something. Basically, anyone can pick up the loot and carry around with it, but Penguin can score it if at the end of the game he gets 3 points if he gets that. If the loot marker's in his possession. Nice. Interestingly, Penguin being a lord of business, having that trait on his profile, means that a second piece of loot also materialises next to the cat marker that Catwoman put down, and there's an additional chance for them to score. They can't score it twice, it'll still only be 3 points, but either of these loot markers will count towards that goal. So there you go, they've got twice as much chance of scoring it, and I'd wager the one near Catwoman's slightly more safe than the one near the random thug. Anyway, let's carry on now. Young Damian Wayne activated next for the Bat family, and he did decide to move. He activated his Bat Claw to move all the way up to the top of this building, and he popped down a suspect marker, which, as you can see, he's turned into a snitch. That's the resin marker for snitches, and there's the card. So we've seen this loads and loads of times now. For 3 points, there has to be no enemies within 4 inches of that suspect marker just there. Okay, it can't be picked up or budged around for the rest of the turn, but yeah, just got to keep enemies away from it. Shouldn't be difficult because there's not much in the way of mobility on this Penguin side, much less to get up on rooftops. Okay, right, let's carry on. Penguin's elite thug next, Mason, I think his name is, activated. He was back here and he did have Audacity. He used the special action that was given to him by that Audacity to use the Follow Me ability on the Shield First Edition thug over here. It gives the Shield thug plus 4 inches of movement. Okay, after that he then just used his movement to move up, and then his tactical action to pop down a suspect marker of his own. Okay, no cards scored as a result of that, so carrying on now. Yeah, well, the Bat family elected to pass once again, leaving them with 1 pass left for the turn. So back to Penguin. Activated Shield Thug from the first edition set, and who moved forwards, making full use of that plus 4-inch movement counter he was just given by the elite Penguin thug back here. So moved up and was inspired, so could put down a suspect marker of his own. There it is. Actually, interesting enough, it's within 4 inches of Red Hood, which enables the Penguin crew to play Not Buying, Don't Touch, using the Penguin's fake Cockney accent from the Arkham games there. Two victory points there. It's easy enough. It will score at the end of the turn. It's only played, it won't score yet. When an enemy model removes a friendly suspect or a friendly model as a casualty, mark it in some way. Oh, damn, should have done this earlier. I'm reading this now. I did actually think of this at the time. I just didn't. Stupid me. Okay, when Red Hood removed that suspect marker, Penguin would have played this, marking it. So please forgive me. I'm still getting used to this new deck. I haven't actually used it before, so these things are going to happen. If that model, as in Red Hood, has a friendly suspects, spelling incorrection, within 4 inches at the end of the round, then they'll score the 2 points. Okay, so if this suspect marker remains within 4 inches of Red Hood there, then yeah, they'll score. There's not an awful lot the Bat family can do to stop it, but we'll see as the game progresses on. Okay, right, let's carry on. Right, Penguin activated next, the Bat family having used their last pass for the turn, so they're going to have to move the rest of their models now. But Penguin up next, as I just said, and this gives me a chance to tell you a bit about what he does. As you can see, he's moved into the middle. He did have Audacity, as you remember. I'm just going to pan back a little bit now. He actually has a rule which I think it's the dealer rule trait. It's the one, it's been modified. This ties into the business counters that he gets. At the beginning of Penguin's activation, he gets the opponent has to go through their hand and discard, and they get to redraw, of course, but they have to discard up to 3 cards from their hand, which they will immediately redraw, but they can lose cards that they were hoping to score later or use for some other reason. And yes, for every card they don't from every card from those 3 that they don't discard, they then actually, Penguin will gain a business counter. Okay, and business counters are the thing that kind of sets Penguin's crew apart from the unique objective deck and things like that. Yes, so there's an actual, it's in the deck, it's included with the deck, the explanation as to how to use these things. Like business counters are things which Penguin will accrue as the opponent does things like taking out his men, or they score objective cards of their own, neither of which has happened yet from the Bat family's perspective, so yeah, no business counters yet. Yes, these business counters can then be spent. He can have up to 6. They can be spent during the course of his crew's turn. One way to do it is he can actually gain extra activations on models that don't have Audacity. So, so extra actions, sorry, not activations. But yes, so say in the next turn this guy activates and he doesn't have a point of Audacity, Penguin could then spend an Audacity a business counter, to get him to not only do his basic action, but he also gets an additional one as well, an additional action as well. So he could shoot then move, for example, or whatever, really. Okay, but by spending a business counter, so it basically means that Penguin's rather large, unwieldy crew can get some more activation, get some more actions out of, a bit more bang for their buck. With these business counters, which is really interesting. It can also use the business counters with Penguin's Underworld King trait to activate. He gets a pool of 4 of the neutral deck, okay, for which he can spend business counters as resource points to use their resources during the course of his crew's activation. So these are the 4 I've chosen. Oh, Light Reflection is terrible. So we've gone with Dirty Job, They Must Know Pain, Flanking and Confusion, all cards from the generic deck, and he can use his business counters to use their resources. I'm not going to go into each of them now, it's be boring for you, but they're there, and if I use them I'll point it out. Yes, the Bat family discarded 1 card from their hand just now, so Penguin just got 2 business counters to use as he wishes. Okay, the Bat family didn't want to give up any others because they've kind of got plans for those, but yeah, and they weren't sure they're going to redraw them, you see. So yeah, 2 business counters to use for Penguin. Anyway, so back to the Penguin's turn. Okay, so he does that at the beginning of each of his activations, which is quite cool. Right, the Penguin then moved into the middle of the road and then used his mobster rule trait as a special action to get this chap up here to fire. So mobster is the mob trait allows him to choose a henchman within inspire range. Ta-da! And if that henchman has got the mobster trait, which all of Penguin's cruise models do. I don't think Slipknot does, and Catwoman certainly doesn't, but yes, all of Penguin's cruise models do. And yes, you can then force them to either shoot or move up to 4 inches and do a melee action. Pretty damn good. And yeah, so this guy shot at Red Hood, so with his assault rifle. Right, the assault rifle packs a hefty punch, so Red Hood was in a spot of bother, but he put in maximum effort to dodge the incoming shots. So 3 of the 4 attack dice got taken off. The remaining one did hit, but the Kevlar vest rule meant that instead of taking 3 points of blood damage, Red Hood took only 2. So bunch of effort there from dodging and 2 blood damage for the trouble of the 1 shot that got left over. Okay, right, so that concludes Penguin's turn. He couldn't use his own tactical action to pop down a suspect marker because there's one already nearby. Right, let's carry on. Boo. Nightwing activated and engaged his back claw, which enabled him to cover the huge distance from back here all the way over to the Penguin's half of the board. He dropped down in base contact with Shield Thug here and removed the suspect marker that had been put down earlier. In so doing, he scored Comb Through Everything for the first card score for the Bat family for 2 victory points, reveal an enemy suspect marker, and helps them cycle their deck sum. So there you go. That's a score for 2 points for the Bat family. That's their first card, like I said. Gives Penguin another business counter, don't forget, because that's a score. That's a scored objective card. So there you are. Okay, does leave Nightwing somewhat exposed, but he's gambling on there not being too much left in the Penguin crew that can damage him. Yeah, Slipknot activated next for Penguin, and he had a simple turn. He had Audacity, if you recall, so he used his movement and special actions to engage his Spat Claw, popped himself up there, and then used his tactical action to pop down this suspect marker. Great. That concludes his turn. Didn't score any cards as a result of those actions. Oh, forgot to mention very briefly, so in Slipknot's activation I used 2 of Penguin's 3 accrued business counters to play the Confusion resource. Cost 2 of those business counters, like I said. During a friendly model's activation you can move another friendly model up to 3 inches, and this Royal Penguin here from the first edition box, starter pack even, he moved 3 inches up. He was behind loose lips, he's now moved up a bit, so he's in a slightly better position now. Okay, right, now so what happens now is this Confusion card will go face down, will get flipped over and be face down. Penguin can spend another business counter to flip it back face up again to be used again in the future, but basically stops him from abusing it and just burning through business counters multiple times. Okay, right, let's carry on now, back to the Bat family. Yeah, and Batwoman rounded her team's activations for the round. She bat clawed all the way up to here from behind those buildings, and that's where she's going to stay. She then used her remaining tactical action to throw one of her remote control batarangs at Slipknot round here, because you could just see his head peeking up over the edge of the billboard, and yes, it being remote control meant he didn't get any cover. Unfortunately, she rolled 2 1s out of 3 dice, so only 1 of the hits got through, doing 2 points of stun damage to him, so not enough to really worry him just yet. But it's a bit disappointing. Could have KO'd him. Well, never mind. Right, let's get back to Penguin and see what he's going to get up to. Okay, yeah, so Royal Penguin next, just to carry on the turn. He, first of all, he was down here. He used his new position to open fire with an unbroken line of sight at Red Hood over here, who did the same trick as before, maximum effort to reduce the incoming dice down to 1 attack, which did hit again, though, on a score of another 5, so actually dealing 2 more blood damage to the Kevlar vested Red Hood. But a lot of ammunition that Penguin crew's burning through. They don't have a huge amount per model, but it does, you've got to try and get these hits in on this very small team of the Bat family when you can, because they're not indestructible. But there's only so far, all that ammunition for a few points of blood doesn't seem great, but that said, if Red Hood goes down, he's a very, very hitty model indeed. So there you go. Having done that, Penguin crew then decided to use their last business counter to give this chap a move action, which he used to hop up on top of the bus shelter here. Okay, gives him a much better field of fire for next turn perhaps. Okay, we're just going to finish off now. I think it's just Loose Lips to go. Yes, as I said, it's Loose Lips, the sidekick, activated next for Penguin and last for the first turn. He was over here in Inspire range of Penguin, who'd moved into the middle of the board, so he got an extra manipulate action. He moved up to the sewer marker, then manipulated it to wind up over here. That does conclude his activation for this turn, and in some circumstances might be considered to be somewhat suicidal, but the Bat family can't point in all directions at the same time, so that he might just be able to make something of himself over here. He's got clear line of sight to Red Hood for a shot or whatever, who knows. That concludes the first turn's activations. We're going to move to the recount phase now and see if anyone scored any cards. Okay, turn one's recount phase now completed, so let's see who scored what. Well, on the Bat family side, the snitch marker up there next to Damian does score for 3 points for them because there's no enemies even nearby. Die Hard scores for them because Nightwing is still as yet undamaged and totally alive. For the Penguin crew's part, they've only the not buying don't touch card does not score because the suspect marker they needed for it was picked up by Nightwing, so in this phase is where it would score. It doesn't now because Red Hood doesn't have that suspect marker nearby. Boo for him. However, Stick to the Plan came out of the Penguin crew's hand. It's a nice generic card they slipped in there for 2 points. Simply have more suspects than enemy suspects in play for their side. Figured that would probably be a feature for this game given the disparity in models, and therefore give the Penguin more chance to get suspects out there. Therefore thought it was a good one to slip in, which it did, and it scored already, so there we go. Okay, the two objectives that the Bat family crew just scored, don't forget, gives the Penguin 2 more business counters at the end of this turn, so there's that. And right, we're going to carry on now with the next stage of the game and going into turn number 2. And the first 2 phases of the second turn are now complete. Take the lead and raise the plan respectively. No cards played by either crew in the first round, but can reveal that the Bat family has won the initiative once again with a 6 win to 3, so they'll be going first, and in this crucial turn should be good for them. Right, in terms of the second phase, I can reveal that 2 cards were played by the Penguin. First of all, Territory Fight was played. It's the second phase. Scores at the end though for 3 points, so serious business now. Right, you see that Battenberg, that symbol that represents the board. So you divide the board. Oh, focus please, into 4 equally sized spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and basically the idea is the Penguin has to have more models in each of those areas than the opponent. Basically, so basically, you can see the text there if you want to read it, but basically you work out who controls each zone by who's got the most models in that given area. Okay, if the Penguin controls more zones than the Bat family do, then they'll score. It's quite a good one in these circumstances given the different disparity in models between the two sides, so yeah, thought that'd be a good one. Smuggled Goods was the second card played from the Penguin. Again, played now but scores in the last phase, at the end of the very end of the turn, for 3 points again, so can't ignore, maybe perils to ignore, shall we say. Right, so here's the text. Place an event marker within 8 inches of an enemy deployment zone. The Penguin player put it down here in base contact with Loose Lips. Right, any model may manipulate the marker to move it, so both sides can manipulate it, same as the suspect marker would be. Enemy model, so Bat family moves it 4 inches. The Penguin, however, moves it 2 plus X, where X equals number of business counters. So at the moment they've got 2 business counters, I think, so they'll be moving it 4 inches as well once they do it. But as their number of business counters goes up and down, the amount of influence they'll have over this marker will change. Basically, at the end of the turn, they'll score the card for 3 points points if the marker is closer to the Penguin deployment zones, one or the other of them, than either of the Bat Family deployment zones. So there you go. So yeah, they've got to get it over there basically. Yeah, so that's another 3-pointer, and it's not something that can be easily ignored, but we'll find out, I guess. Right, moving on, I'll tell you who's got Audacity. So for the Bat Family, it's everyone again. So Red Hood, Nightwing, Batwoman, and Robin there. For the Penguin, a lot harder to choose, so I went with Loose Lips, who's a sidekick. Can't be inspired. Should have remembered that, because yeah, he just doesn't look like a sidekick in this game because he's so normal. Santa hat aside. Catwoman, of course. Penguin, of course, and went with Stun Baton Penguin Elite Thug 2 to have Audacity for this turn. Right, let's get on with the game and just do some activations and see who's going to capitalise on this situation. Well, Nightwing kicked things off in style for the Bat Family. First of all, if you recall, he was down here with Audacity. He used his acrobatic prowess and all of his massive normal movement to move up next to Tanner and dispatch him with a simple close combat action. He 10 points of damage and he barely broke a sweat. I mean, it's just, this Nightwing is so good in close combat. And then he used his special action to combat flip away, and which puts him 3 inches straight away from the model, and then he put down a suspect marker by playing They Won't See Me Coming as a resource for 1 resource point. We've seen this before. One of your models with a leader, psychic, or free agent rank, well, that's Nightwing, may perform a manipulate action. It's a free manipulate action basically for him, which is really powerful because when he does it, he turns it into, if you can see there, it's a snitch. So another snitch is out for the Bat Family, and there's not many models up there that can reach it or get to within 4 of it on the Penguin side, them being relatively slow. Yeah, so it's a potential another 3 points there for the Bat Family team. Okay, that concludes Nightwing's action, but pretty good one. Right, let's see what the Penguin crew can do to respond. Well, keeping the trend of powerful models, Catwoman activated for Penguin. Remember, she was over here by these crates. She picked up the valuable goods on the way round and moved into contact with Red Hood. She didn't attack him though. She used her bluff special action to distract. I've used it as a distract marker because it helps me to remember that he's got it. Basically, she used her bluff special ability, which reduces his attacks down to 3 from 4, which is a big jump really when you get in these rules for the rest of the turn. So yeah, I think that'd be quite useful against these squishy Penguin models, but we'll see. She then, instead of attacking him though, she put down a suspect marker, which is another cat marker for her, as you see, because they're, instead of going for kills, they're going for scores at the moment with Goods Raid played from the hand from the Penguin, 2 points. We saw this last turn. Friendly model places a suspect and you have at least 2 more suspects than your opponent in play. Well, there are currently 5 Penguin suspects to 3 for the Bat Family. So that's an instant 2 points there for them. I think that concludes Catwoman's turn. Yeah, she's quite a powerful model, and she's yeah, with these cat markers on the board, she's become even more of an annoyance to the Bat Family because portable suspect markers that she can use to respawn from is very dangerous for them. Yeah, Damian Wayne up next for the Bat Family, looking to do something dynamic. He used the special equipment from the Bat Family's list to use his grapple gun twice. Well, 2 turns in succession without waiting for it to cool down. Because if you remember, he was up here, so he used it to jackrabbit all the way down here, and basically he went into the Royal Penguin. Yes, and as you can see, he knocked him out with a brutal round of close combat. Despite even the Royal Penguin rolling really well on his defence, wasn't enough to stop the hail of blows from the Robin. Yes, so took him out of action there, and then he scored a dirty job from the hand. It's a solitary 1 point, but it does tie him with making an enemy model KO. So there you go. That's pretty useful. If you're wondering why I didn't then arrest him, it's because there's 2 reasons. Even though I keep making the mistake. Firstly, he used the special action when he used his back claw, and also he doesn't have handcuffs. I gave the handcuffs in this crew through to Red Hood and to Nightwing rather than to Robin this time. Yes, so there you go. Incidentally, that puts 2 more business counters into the Penguin's kitty, because he got one for knocking out the Royal Penguin and another one for when Robin scored Dirty Job for 1 point. Okay, so yes, that concludes Robin's turn. Let's move back to Penguin. Loose lips next for Penguin then. He moved, first of all, he was back here, remember, in contact with the smuggled goods marker, which he manipulated. Penguin's got 5 business counters, which you add the 2 on for the card itself, enabled him to move it 7 inches all the way over here, which is quite the movement really. Gone up from considerably upwards in movement from the beginning of the turn anyway. So yes, that was his manipulate activation, so he couldn't use his gun on Red Hood, unfortunately for him, but what he did do was to move into base contact there to increase the pressure on the ex-Robin. Okay, so yeah, that's quite an interesting one. No cards scored as a result of that, but he did use his turn to move up a 3-pointer, so I think that's pretty useful. Red Hood activated for the Bat family, and he had a bit of a disappointing one, unfortunately. If you remember, he was in between these 2, and then he had audacity, so first thing he did was to attack Loose Lips with his crowbar, his trusty crowbar that should really do quite a lot. It's got the devastating rule, which gives him 2 strength dice which can't be blocked, etc. But unfortunately, because the bluff played on him by Catwoman earlier, he just couldn't do the damage. Loose Lips put in 1 effort for his part to reduce the attack pool further, and Red Hood couldn't really afford to increase the damage he'd already taken to do it. But nonetheless, the odds were on that he could. But no, the fact that he only had 3 attack dice down from 4, and the fact that Loose Lips was blocking him on 3s as opposed to 4s with his own defense dice, culminated in the attack failing. Ultimately, Loose Lips took 5 points of stun damage, which is pretty good, as you can see there, but he has 6 points of willpower, which means that he's not unconscious, so very disappointing, especially since there might have been a get them off the streets card sitting in the Bat family's hand, ready to hoover up a nice 3 points there. Oh well, nothing. I mean, yeah, those the breaks, and the bluff was what did it, but Catwoman totally spoiled his activation. Oh well. Right, so Red Hood, having done that, hasn't got a special action to use really that he wanted to, being in base contact, so he moved around here and just to regroup a little bit, since he's out of line of sight of various guns and whatnot. Okay, yeah, no cards scored from that activation. Slipknot next for Penguin. He actually has a really prodigious movement. So when he activated back here with just his without audacity, he was actually able to move with his 12-inch movement up the ladder and across a couple of the rooftops there, just to pop himself in the firmly in the Bat family's quarter of the board, shall we say. Don't forget, this probably ties into the territory fight card. Probably would be better called turf war, really, but territory fight it is, where the Penguin crew needs to establish dominance over bigger over areas of the map, the board, and but it also means that if anyone wants to come and hunt him down, they've got to backtrack to get him. So that's pulling the stretched resources of the Bat family ever thinner as well. So yeah, it could be a good move there for Slipknot. Perhaps we'll find out, I guess. Hey, at least his head won't explode in 2 minutes. Right, let's move on and see what the Bat family is going to do about it. And yes, as predicted, Batwoman did activate next for the Bat family to backtrack in and take out Slipknot, as you can see there. She moved back. He put in maximum effort to resist her attack with her shock gloves. However, she put one back in just for the sake of it, because all she needed really was the strength die to come through, and yes, it did. So he took 5 points of stun altogether from that attack, which was sufficient to knock him out. Yep. Having done that, she was able to use her special action to arrest him. So, oh dear, off he comes. Forgot he was metal. And she played as a objective, get them off the streets, which we've seen plenty of times. 3 points, arrest a model, instant score for the Bat family. Nice. The Penguin, for his part, played Not Buying, Don't Touch properly from his hand this time. Remember last turn we played it a little bit wrong, but not too badly. It will score at the end of the turn when enemy model removes a friendly suspect or a friendly model as a casualty, mark it in some way. So Batwoman is now marked. that model has a friendly suspect within 4 inches at the end of the round. Well, that won't happen in all likelihood, but nonetheless it does actually enable this to cycle out of the through the hand, so it does help maybe Penguin get something he can score a bit better next time. Okay, so yes, that concludes the Bat family's activations. Now we just got Penguin to go, and he'll be able to act with more or less impunity now, I think, which is dangerous, but when you're playing in the second turn, when things get a bit more embroiled, shall we say, using passes is an awful lot difficult when you're, is an awful lot more difficult than in the first turn, shall we? So they had to do it, the Bat family. I don't think they could really have wasted any time to see what Penguin would have done, but we'll see if that's going to bite them in the bum now, as Penguin's now going to be out of act with the remainder of his crew. Okay, well, let's get on and stop talking about it and let's start doing it. Well, Penguin Elite Thug had a heck of a turn when he activated next. So talk about acting with impunity, so we say, as I'm just about to hopefully show you. Well, if you remember, he had Audacity. He was over here. When he activated, he popped himself up here. He's actually got movement 10, which is enough to move over here and then also to climb on top of the bus shelter, which is pretty good. He then, used a business counter from the the maxed out pool of 6 that Penguin has to use the resource on They Must Know Pain. I'll just show it to you. For 1 business counter, during the friendly model's activation, it may remove up to 2 damage markers, or target a friendly model up to 4 inches to automatically recover it from KO. So Royal Penguin is no longer KO'd, he's actually just knocked down now. So that's pretty useful, if you ask me. Really, really bloody useful, actually. Automatically you get back from KO. That's great. Right, so let's get back on with what else happened in the turn. He then used his tactical action to attack Damian Wayne. Now, Damian Wayne is in contact with 2 models, so he is technically outnumbered. Despite having martial artist, he doesn't actually suffer any penalties being outnumbered, but he is still outnumbered technically, which meant as soon as the action was declared to attack him, that everyone has a price was paid as an objective from the hand. So let me show you. It's an instant card if it does score. Right, so play this card when an enemy model that is outnumbered is the target of an attack. Well, here we are. The opponent, that's Damian, chooses if the target may not effort. So Damian can choose to not effort to defend himself, or if the Penguin player removes 2 friendly suspects. However, if the Penguin does remove friendly suspects, this card scores for 2 points. So does Damian think he can tank the attack without too much ill effect, or does he just give up 2 points to be able to defend himself with his efforts? So yes, Damian's quite tough and headstrong, so he decided that he would take the attack, as it were. So so he didn't put any effort in. The Elite Penguin Thug, for his part, a bit of a risk, but he put in 3 efforts, as you can see there, to really hammer home the advantage. And in the end, Damian was lucky in the end, because the strength die on a 3+ failed to damage him, and only 2 hits got through after the pretty decent defense roll. So 4 points of stun damage nonetheless on Damian, the Robin, and that actually makes it so that he's actually 1 point of willpower away from going unconscious, but he is still in the game, and he didn't give up those 2 victory points, because at the end of the day it is about victory points. So yeah, there you go. But yes, pretty good turn for a Penguin Elite Thug, and another model back into the mix. Well then, Oswald Cobblepot activated finally for his crew. He's not the final one to activate, but finally he activated. Right, first of all, he moved around here to be a bit more central in the middle of his crew. He could try and hide, but the Bat family's just too quick. They'll find him anyway, so might as well get in amongst it. Right, so he then used his special action. Well, then he put down a suspect marker because reasons, getting them out on the board. He then also used his special action to do mob, which allows him to activate the Royal Penguin again. Not Royal Penguin, the Elite Penguin Thug, sorry, with his stun baton, to attack Damian Wayne again. And the strength die came up, which was enough to knock the Boy Wonder out properly this time. Wow. So yes, the Penguin's mob rule is really, he doesn't actually have much in the way of fisticuffs himself, you know, not much more than a high-powered henchman really, if that, but he really can inspire or push his crew around him to better feats. If you can get the best out of your crew this way, that's always good. So yes, that's a powerful move there, and that's a quarter of the Bat family's activations knocked out for the time being, unless he gets up next turn. But right, he then used his played an objective card from his hand of My House, My Rules, which is his own personalised objective card. It doesn't have to be him who plays it, I don't think, but here we go. It plays in this phase, scores any time in the future, so it'll stay out indefinitely, and probably. Target an enemy model within 8 inches of your boss. Well, he chose Nightwing, who is just within 8 inches. Right, so every time that model places a suspect, inflicts a knockout, or removes a model as a casualty, so basically every time he does something useful, place 2 markers on this card. When there are at least 5 markers on this card scores for a lovely 3 points. So yeah, it's a bit of a handicap there for Nightwing. Also, the resource is also used on this card whilst it's out, so until he's scored, this is actually in play basically. Penguin can use markers from this card to do any of the bullet pointed actions, so he can move a friendly model 4 inches, place a friendly suspect in contact with a friendly model, or look at opponent hand and discard 1 card from it. Okay, so again, it has to be during the Penguin's activation, but still handy things to have. And yes, this is a bit of a, like I said, a bit of a handicap there for Nightwing. Yeah, so there we go. No cards actually scored from this turn, but plenty of useful things done. Okay, well, let's move on and see what else is going to happen. Well, many apologies again, I did forget to mention something that happened at the beginning of Penguin's turn. He actually spent 2 of his business counters to flip back all of his objective cards, all of the resources he can use from his Iceberg Lounge trait. So instead of them being flipped over as unusable, they've both been used. And then his dealer trait kicked in and actually put him back to having 5 business counters. Okay, so that's important to mention, I feel, because it does sort of it will have a bearing in mind just a second, see. So I think it was important, because we then moved to the Royal Penguin's activation. He's just come back online from being knocked out, so what he did was, he's still got the knockdown marker, let's take that off him, sorry about that. There you go, he's no longer knocked down because he moved to get up, and then Penguin spent a resource counter a business counter to allow him to attack the downed Robin. Right, spent another business counter to activate the resource on Dirty Job here, which I don't think I've ever used before. For 1 business counter, a friendly model adds 1 die to a melee attack and then suffers a point of blood damage. Well, blood damage is no problem when you're fighting the Bat family, so he took that point of blood damage with gusto. And right, then he attacked Robin, and right, Robin's knocked out, which reduces his defense to 3 from 4. He also can't roll to block. So with the strength die, etc., and the extra bonus from the Dirty Job card, the Royal Penguin then had he had 4 attack dice and a strength die. The attack dice were hitting on 3s, the strength on 4s, and well, this is the roll. So I'll just see if you can see that. That's all of them. So that's all of those hits. We're normally doing blood stun damage, but they do blood damage instead. Take off that stun. Sorry. God, I'm forgetting things all over the place. Jeez. So yes, 5 points of blood damage, which is enough to pick Damian Wayne up off the board, which is a horrible, horrible thing to happen for the Bat family, because they'll never get that back now. That's a quarter of their activations off the board forever now, which is a horrible thing. For a henchman who was KO'd as well just a moment ago, that is that's something that only this Penguin crew could do with these business counters, etc. So yeah, that's really showing how you can turn the screw with Penguin and bully your opponents. I really, really think that's quite crucial. No card scored, but when you can take down the opponents like that and prevent them from scoring in the future, that's really worth it. Okay, right, let's move back on. Let's finish off this turn, shall we? Okay, I decided to round off the turn's movements just for the two blue penguins from Penguin's old metal gang. There was not much to do really. Neither of them had audacity, and even when they're inspired, they didn't want to put down suspect markers because 6 of Penguin's allotted 8 are already down, and that might actually hobble him trying to score points in the future. So putting down suspect markers just for the sake of it isn't always that useful. Right. So first of all, blue penguin with shield activated and just moved over here. As you can see, he's kind of in a position to move anywhere he's needed next turn. To be honest, he and his friends are actually just there to put down suspect markers and run interference. They're not Banes by any means, so yeah. And he can't really bodyguard Penguin that well against Bat Family because he doesn't have the bodyguard rule for one, and also the Bat Family is so fast that and manoeuvrable that what can you do? But hey, he's just there. He can score points in the future, hopefully. It might as well be 14 points as 140 for this job. His friend Blue Penguin with Handgun just moved around from the corner there into he's got a bit of a better line of sight to anyone jumping out on his team members. So there you go. That basically concludes the turn for the Penguin crew and the Bat Family. So we're going to move to the recount phase, take off all these markers and do some tidy up and see who scored what. Right, recount phase for turn 2 is now finished. First of all, can reveal that Tanner here remained KO'd. Not really surprising. He needed 5 or less on 2 dice to come round, so that would have been rather too lucky for the Penguin, I think. In terms of cards scored, we'll start with the Bat Family. So Nightwing's Snitch is still 4 inches away from anyone because he combat flipped 3 inches away, and his base width is larger than 1 inch there. So yeah, equals more than 4. So Snitch scores for 3 points for the Bat Family. For the Penguin's crew's part, not buying, don't touch does not score. It was the one where Batwoman was marked and the Penguin needed to put a suspect marker within 4 inches of her. Didn't happen, was never likely to, was done to cycle the deck, so not really a massive surprise, but that goes back into the deck there. On the other hand, however, Territory Fight does score for Penguin for 3 points, so there's the little card there. The Bat Family holds this corner on their bottom left here. However, the 3 other quarters of the board are all held by Penguin's troops. So 3-1 there is a 3-point win for Penguin. It was very likely to happen. Finally, Smuggled Goods does score for the Penguin crew, and because you can see the counter is here and it's closer to the Penguin crew's deployment zone than it is to any of the Bat Family's ones. So there you go, 3 points there scored for them, and I will now conclude the turn. I think it's time to move into turn number 3. The ratio of models lost on the board is 1-all, not a ratio the Bat Family will want to continue on. So going to turn 3, the pressure is really on them. Okay, well, let's see what they can do about it. And into turn 3 we go. First 2 phases are now complete. For the first phase, which is take the lead, the Bat Family played a objective card from the shadows. Just bring that to focus. We have seen this. It's one of the League of Assassins cards brought to you with the crew courtesy of Damian Wayne. 2 victory points. They play it now and they score at the end. They have to target an enemy model and they have to remove him as a casualty first this round. If they do that, then they get the 2 points. They are nominating Penguin himself to go down. So yes, a bit of a bold claim that. So yeah, that's interesting, but it'll be worth 2 points if they can get it. Yes indeed. Right, so moving on. We would normally roll for initiative, but the Bat Family once per game can opt just to take the initiative, despite having a hefty plus on their die roll because they didn't use any passes last turn. They still opted to guarantee them taking the first action this turn. They really wanted it, so they'll be going first this time. Into the second phase, raise the plan. The Bat Family didn't have any cards to play this time, but Penguin certainly did. So we see Smuggled Goods has come out again. That's the one where they have to escort the event marker across the board towards their deployment zone. And it's been put in the same place more or less. So there you go, 3 points if they can do that again. They'll be hoping, I'm sure. Territory Fight came out again played in the second phase, scores at the end. It's the one where they have to hold quarters of the board. I'm not going to explain it again because we just saw it in the last turn, so there you go. And a new card came out, Secret Equipment Bases. This is one of the ones which a lot of people don't seem to like in the public arena. But for 2 points, I thought I'd give it a go. Again, played in this phase scores at the end. They have to target 2 scenery elements that are 8 inches away from each other and any deployment zone, which that can be problematic in itself, so I can understand, but thankfully my boards tend to be kind of littered with debris and detritus, so I've got plenty to choose from. So I mean, if you're only looking at buildings, I can understand it might be impossible to find anything, but I mean, for the purposes of this game, what's certainly this lovely looking car here with the open door and this skip will be the 2 nominated pieces of scenery, because they both qualify all the criteria for this card. Right, to score the 2 points, by the end of the turn there are more friendly suspects, i.e. penguin suspects, than enemy suspects within 4 inches of each targeted scenery element. So yes, and penguin currently fulfills that criteria now anyway, with suspect markers next to them, so it's 2 points, and the Bat family may have to divert resources to deal with it if they care to try and stop it at all. Right, on to who's got audacity. Well, for the Bat family, nice and easy. There's only 3 models left and they all have audacity. For penguin, well, penguin himself, Catwoman, Loose Lips, and the elite penguin thug over here all have audacity for the turn. Right, okay, on to turn 3's activations. Bat family to go first. Well, getting straight in there, Red Hood has plenty of move. He came all the way from round here into combat with Penguin himself and hit him hard with his with his crowbar. Penguin put in effort and Red Hood had to match it, taking Red Hood perilously close to going unconscious, but in the end the crowbar was sufficient to the task, dealing 8 points of stun damage to the Underworld King. It was very close actually. It's only because Red Hood has the brutal rule, which means he causes criticals on a 5 or 6, paired with the blunt 2 trait on his crowbar that did the excess damage needed to take Penguin out. It was nasty, but in the end he got at least 3 hits through, and Seeking Revenge was played from the hand, which is Red Hood's own actual card. It's instantly inflict at least 3 hits with a weapon that inflicts stun type damage against any model with the highest reputation cost, and Penguin is the model with the highest reputation, just pipping Selena Kyle there to the post. So yes, that's a hefty 3 points. Don't forget, that's, and also 2 points because Penguin was marked for being taken out as well, which happens when, as a special action, Red Hood arrests him with the handcuffs purchased from War Gear for the team. Okay, so yes, that's taken Penguin out altogether. That's a decisive blow. Right, what that does, it actually immediately clears off all the business counters accrued on the Penguin's card. On the business counter card, so they've all gone, so down to 0. Selena Kyle, aka Catwoman, will be taking over as the new boss because she's the most survivable one. Yeah, so that's pretty harsh. And right, but also Penguin did play Not Buying, Don't Touch as an objective card, so that's the one we've seen before. 2 points. It will score at the end of the turn when enemy model moves as friendly suspect or a friendly model as a casualty, so Red Hood arresting Penguin qualifies. Mark it in some way, have done. That model has friendly suspects within 4 inches at the end of the round, so well, they're standing on one, so that will count. So at the moment they'll be scoring that, which is some sort of consolation. At the end of the day, it might get them some points, but yeah, that's a bad one. So yes, I'm thinking that also means that because Penguin had the trait Iceberg Lounge, which means all of his accrued cards for the use of as resources for business counters, that they're no longer allowed to be used because it was his trait and he's no longer on the board, so can't use it anymore. I'll have to use business counters from now on, if they accrue them, for other things such as activating henchmen and things. Okay? Giving them extra actions. Right, well, that was a hefty score for the Bat family, but yeah, let's see if the Penguin crew can respond in some way. Blue Penguin with shield was the first Penguin model to go for the turn, and he didn't have audacity and he doesn't have inspiration, and there's no business counters to give him anything else, so all he did was move into base contact with Red Hood there. Not sure exactly why from the Bat family's point of view, but maybe Penguin has something up his sleeve. Right, time to go back to the Bat family. Nightwing next, and yes, continuing the tradition of dynamic moves, he jumped down from here. He has more than enough movement and the acrobatics to get to Loose Lips, and did a number on him as well. Loose Lips put some effort in to reduce the dice pool, but Nightwing didn't even care. He just put it in and did lots of hits anyway with the combo and the strength die and everything. Oh, it was nasty. Yes, Loose Lips is KO'd. Nightwing had then used his special action to handcuff him and pick him up as a casualty. That's another model with audacity down for the Penguin this turn. He's losing activations like Billy-O. And just to add insult again, the Nightwing then played Get Them Off the Streets for 3 points, arrest a model, and he's just done it. So yeah, 3 points there as well. To my understanding, the knockout, the subsequent arrest, and then the scoring of the card is each a business counter for the Penguin crew, so that gives them three business counters by way of some sort of compensation, but doesn't really make up for cold hard victory points, does it? No. Right, okay, so yeah, it's the Penguin crew's plan may be starting to unfold quite rapidly. They lost their leader and their sidekick in the first two activations of the third turn. Well, let's get back to him. Penguin's elite thug activated, and yes, he had audacity, if you recall. So first of all, up here he used his special action to use the follow me action on Royal Penguin here, giving him a +4 movement counter next time he needs it. Next up, he moved down onto the ground and attacked Red Hood. Having done so, Red Hood's outnumbered, much the same as Damian Wayne was. Everyone Has a Price was played again for 2 points. Play this card when an enemy model that is outnumbered is the target of an attack. Yep. So basically, Red Hood had to choose if Red Hood couldn't make efforts, or if the Penguin had to remove 2 friendly suspects. Removing the suspects would have scored the card. Well, as it turns out, Red Hood couldn't make efforts anyway due to the amount of stun damage he's already holding, so this card's kind of moot, but it does help cycle it out, because didn't really think there was going to be much other chance to outnumber enemies at this point. So yeah, it's not scored, but it did cycle the card out. As it was, just the strength die got through, which was odds on because it's mechanical, so wounds on 3 pluses, which was sufficient to do 2 points of stun and take Red Hood out. Red Hood easily blocked all the other incoming attacks, but the strength die got to him, so he is KO'd. It's another model down now for the Bat family crew. But well, we've got Batwoman to go. Let's see what she's going to get up to. Well, here she is, and what she decided to do was to just use her back crate to drop down slowly to the ground and pick up the suspect marker that was down here for the Penguin. It was one of Catwoman's cat markers as well, so it gets rid of one of her lifelines, shall we say. And yes, don't forget, it will disrupt the secret equipment bases card that Penguin played earlier on. He needs those suspect markers nearby this dumpster, which there are none at the moment. Also labelled her to score The Fire Rises for 2 victory points. It's an instant score. A friendly model reveals an enemy suspect within 6 inches of a friendly boss. Well, Batwoman is the boss, so that certainly qualifies and scores 2 points. So there's a potential big swing there for the Bat family in points. I mean, I know they're aggressive crew, which is meant to be taking out models, but if you can score points whilst denying them to the enemy at the same time, that's really useful as well. Puts her in a good position for next turn. Okay, right, just Penguin models to go, so they're going to see the turn out and we'll see what they get up to. Well, Penguin's new boss model, Catwoman, activated, and she moved down to the smuggled goods marker with 4 business counters on the card. She was able to move it 6 inches, so she did. It's zipped across the road into the middle of it, and yeah, that's where it stays. I think it will be scoring now because it'll be closer to the Penguins' deployment zones than the Bat families. She then used her special action, Stealthy Cats, just to move her remaining cat marker away from Nightwing into the middle of the board. Maybe she's got a plan for it next turn, who knows. Yes, but that does conclude her turn. Not really using her offensive capabilities that much, but you've got to score points really, especially after the hefty score the Bat family just raked in this turn. Okay, let's carry on. Royal Penguin next. Don't forget he had a +4 movement counter from the Elite Penguin's activation earlier. He used that and his basic movement to hop down off of the bus shelter, move over here. A business counter was then spent to enable him to put down a suspect marker because he didn't have audacity. He could have stood up here and just shot at Batwoman, but and you know, he's got a hefty rifle. He might even have killed her in one salvo if he got lucky. But as it is, he needs to try and score points, and they need the secret equipment bases to come out, so this suspect marker will certainly do that. So so that's one business counter out of 4 spent, so they've got 3 left. Okay, let's move on. See, let's play out the last activation of the turn, I think. And just to finish things off, we're going with Blue Penguin with Handgun here. He was activated over here, didn't have audacity. He used his one action as a tactical action to open fire on Nightwing. Nightwing is 4 shots altogether, including the strength die. Nightwing used his effort to reduce 3 of those, as you can see the big 3 stun markers there. Sorry. So yes, he reduced the dice pool incoming to him to 1, which did hit him for 1 point of blood and 1 point of extra stun. So there you can see 4 point stun, 1 point of blood. Altogether from that salvo of fire. Then another business counter was used by the Penguin's crew to move this guy into inspire radius of his new boss, okay, for next turn. Right, I believe that concludes turn 3's activations. We're starting to lose models, so the turns are getting shorter. Going to move to the recount phase now and redress who scored what. Recount phase is now complete for turn 3. Right, so first of all, who recovered from KO? Well, neither of them. Tanner, again, failed to recover from knockout, so he won't be joining us for the rest of the game. But crucially, nor did Red Hood. He rolled an 8 and his endurance is 7, so no Red Hood for the final turn. That's a hefty negative for the Bat family. I guess when you play the Bat family, you do have to kind of ride your luck that these things will go your way, and sometimes it doesn't. So they're going to have to make do with just 2 members of their gang left. Okay, right. So which card scored? Well, starting with the Bat family, it's nice and easy. From the Shadows did score. They nominated Penguin to be the first model they removed as a casualty, and that was the case. Right, Penguin. Whew. First of all, card play from the hand, stick to the plan. Again, they've got 6 suspects out to the Bat family's 4, so they have more suspects for 2 points. Nice. Right, so first of all, not buying, don't touch does score for them. At the end of the turn, there is still a suspect marker next to Red Hood, so well, there's 2 actually, the cat marker as well. So 2 points for the Penguin crew there. Smuggled goods does score as well, because they've managed to move that smuggled goods marker closer to their deployment zone than it started, than it is to the Bat family's ones. Territory fight again does score for the Penguin crew. They have many more models on the board, so it's easy for them. They own this quarter, that quarter, and the near one here. Batwoman over here has claimed that one for the Bat family, but it is insufficient to stop the 3 points from going through for Penguin. And finally, secret equipment bases has scored for Penguin. Just the numbers is telling now. So yes, so they've got more suspect markers close to this car and also to this skip than the Bat family can manage. So there you go. That is a hefty, let's see, 12 points scored in one phase for the Penguin crew. Weren't scoring many throughout the course of the turn though, and that's where the Bat family was doing their work. So I guess we'll see if we'll see how it comes together at the end. But we're going to move on to turn 4 now. Every model's taken off a point of stun where they had it, as long as they're not KO'd, and we'll see how the last scramble for points goes. Okay, see if Penguin can turn this dominance in numbers against the Bat family. Right, turn 4's first 2 phases are now done. For the Bat family, we played From the Shadows as an objective for 2 points. We saw it before. They've nominated Royal Penguin this time to be the guy to have to go down. Boo for him. Yes, so 2 points if they take him out first. Just turning around. Right, Penguins, then the initiative roll was made, and despite having +3 on the dice for having 3 passes they didn't use last turn, the Bat family lost. I'm using them in black now because I figured blue for the Iceberg Lounge made more sense. And yes, even with the +3, Penguin has managed to win the initiative this turn on a 6, as opposed to the Bat family's modified score of 5. So yeah, Penguin will be going first this time. That's an unexpected turn, not one that I was expecting anyway. Right, in the second phase, no cards played by the Bat family, but 2 cards played from the Penguin. Secret equipment bases, again, mimicking last turn. They need to have more suspects at the end of the turn within 4 inches of this dumpster and that car. And if they do, they score the 2 points. And finally, Territory Fight again came out, the 3rd copy of this card for 3 points. And yet, we've seen it already, you know, they just got to control the board. And it should be interesting to see if they, you know, how this pans out for them, considering they've got 5 models active to the Bat family's 2. So yeah, we'll see. They should probably manage to do that, I'd have thought. Right, okay, enter who's got Audacity. So Bat family, easy, it's Nightwing and Batwoman because they're the only 2 left. Nothing to do with spare Audacity in this game. In the Penguin crew, only had 5 models to choose from, so it's Catwoman, Royal Penguin, the Elite Penguin Thug, and had to give it to this Blue Penguin with Handgun. The only model that didn't get it is the even more useless Blue Penguin with Shield. So yeah, that's him done and dusted. Right, let's move on to seeing who can squeeze what out of these last few activations. It's the Penguin crew to kick us off. Royal Penguin activated first. He was over here, he had Audacity, he used his tactical action to shoot at Batwoman, and with he doesn't get his strength die due to the bat armour that she's wearing. However, of the 3 other shots, he was really close to killing her actually, because he hit with 2 out of 3, doing 3 points of blood damage each, and she's only got 7 endurance, so she's 1 away from actually dying. He nearly blew her away. It was only 1 pip on the dice away from doing so. Yeah, so he did that. He then decided that discretion was the better part of valor and beat it down here for as fast as his little legs could carry him. Yeah, because don't forget, there's 2 points riding on if he can get taken out first by the Bat family. Right, okay, that's his turn. Didn't time with any cards scored, but we'll see how that goes. Thought I'd come around the other side of the board to show you Nightwing's last move. He had his back claw back again, so he was able to, from here, come all the way over to the far corner. In fact, he could actually get right in the far corner and pop down a suspect marker. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And that suspect marker again is a snitch. So there's a 3rd one, I think, for the game. 3 points, and there's really no one on the Penguin crew. I don't think even Catwoman can reach it over here, even with her climbing claws, etc. So there you go. That's a 3 points almost certainly scored for the Batman crew. Well, Bat family, shall I say, sorry. And right, well, back to the Penguin now. See what he can, see what his crew can do in his absence. In a act of petty revenge, or like petty spite, well, truly that his master would appreciate, Blue Penguin with Shield activated and put the boot in on the unconscious Red Hood here. He put a net point of effort in, which I forgot to put on here, but yep, he put 1 point of effort in. He's actually carrying Enervating 2 as a side effect of all the business counters that have been used. If you read up on the rules for them, you'll understand. But yes, so you can only put 1 effort in, and yes, he did 3 points of damage. He hit 3 times, which would normally be 3 points of stun damage because Red Hood's unconscious. That's 3 extra points of stun, blood even, which is enough to finish him off and end him, I'm afraid. Boo. I don't think Red Hood's traits actually to defend himself actually come into play while he's unconscious. So there you go. So there you go. That's him off. It really doesn't make any difference. It just allowed all it really was allowed Penguin to play Everyone Has a Price to cycle his deck a little bit more. So it's played when a model that is outnumbered is the target of an attack. There was no way that it could score. We've seen it before. I mean, Red Hood couldn't effort anyway, so he was never going to be able to trigger that one, but it does cycle the deck a little bit, so we'll get rid of that card, draw another one, and we'll move back to the Bat family. Batwoman to go. Well, Batwoman finishing the game's activations for the Bat family. She activated with Audacity. She moved into combat with the Penguin Elite Thug. She was originally going to be gunning for the Royal Penguin, but he moved out of range when his crew surprisingly got first activation, and he beat it quite quickly. Anyway, she went into combat with him instead as a runner-up prize. And despite the fact that this Penguin Elite Thug is no easy pushover, he was, however, carrying a little bit of stun from earlier in the game, and that was was sufficient to be able to knock him unconscious, even with his hardened rule, converting one of the stun points to blood damage and everything. Yes, and she had some decent rolls. She put 1 point of effort in, which is the maximum she could do. Actually no, she played as a resource They Must Know Pain from the hand, so just to show you that friendly model can remove up to 2 damage markers during its activation. So there you go, that's what she did, and then which enabled her to cycle the deck. She's now going to arrest him with her special action. Ouch. And that actually enables the newly gained Get Them Off the Streets, which came into their hand as they played the resource, for 3 points to arrest a model. Whew, lucky last score there for Batwoman. Okay, having done that though, Not Buying, Don't Touch was played from the hand by the Penguin crew for 2 points. We've seen that plenty of times. At the end of the turn, if there's a suspect marker within 4 inches of Batwoman, then they'll score those 2 points, which I can pretty much guarantee there will be. Okay, right, I'm going to continue. I'm going to finish off all of the Penguin crew's activations and let you know what's going on. Well, apologies for this, but unfortunately, having reviewed the cards, there is no more cards that can be scored for the Penguin during the course of the third phase. No, they don't want to kill Batwoman off because she's going to be scoring points for them later due to her proximity to a suspect marker, and there's no way they can reach Nightwing anyway. So, and you know, killing models doesn't score points in their situation at this moment in time anyway. They've got no more. They don't need to put any more suspect markers down. They've got them where they are, and there's nothing the Bat family can do to either score or prevent scores at this point. So we're just going to stop there and move to the recount phase, which I've just done, and let's see who's scored the cards for the course of the game. So the Bat family starting first. Well, From the Shadows doesn't score for them. They nominated Royal Penguin and didn't get him first, or at all, as it turns out, because he activated first and skedaddled. So fair enough for him, fair play. However, Nightwing's Snitch in the far corner does score. No one could reach it, so 3 easy points for the Bat family there. Right, Penguin for his cards for the turn. Right, so first of all, let's remember, Penguin played My House, My Rules earlier in the game. Second turn I think, and did not score it. There were 4 markers on the card because Nightwing managed to do some things. I think he KO'd someone and then arrested them, so that was, or something like that, and that was 4 markers out of 5 needed, but he then just put down a suspect marker and things like that, so didn't actually score anything for the rest of the game, didn't actually do anything that qualified for this, did not score this card, so 3 points denied there for Penguin. Did however sort of curtail what he could do though, so maybe the card was worth it in that respect. Right, Valuable Commodities does score because Catwoman is still holding her loot marker. The one on Tanner got picked up by Nightwing, but unfortunately one of those markers is still on Catwoman, and that's all it's needed to score the 3 points. Penguin's Lord of Business trait really coming in handy there, enabled him to get those 3 points where other crews may not have been able to do so. Right, cards for the turn then. So Not Buying, Don't Touch does score for Penguin because after Batwoman arrested Elite Thug, there was this suspect marker next to her, and that scores the 2 points required. Territory Fight does score for Penguin, again because there's just more models in various parts of the board than there are for the Bat family. So yeah, lovely, 3 points there for the Penguin crew. Secret Equipment Bases again does score just as in situ as it was, you know, with the existing suspect markers on the board. It's great when this can happen. It's great having a crew where you can just leave your suspects on the board and let them accrue points, like League of Assassins, etc. A lot of the other crews, ones which might have tougher models like Two-Face, require you to remove your suspects and stuff afterwards, after scoring them. Not so for the Penguin. So yep, this car and this skip both have their suspect markers nearby. Nothing for the Bat family to contest that, and so lovely, 2 points for the Penguin. And finally, coming from the Penguin crew's hand, Stick to the Plan. Once again, they have more suspects in play than the Bat family, 6 to 5 at this point. They could have had more though if there was anything in doubt. 2 points then, a nice one there. Right, well, after all that, we're going to have to go to the final score now and find out who's won, and then I'll review how I think each crew did. Right, final count time. I'm holding the Bat family's score pile. Let's see how they did. So we got 2, 4, 7, 8, 11, 14, get on the pile, 14, 17, 20, 22, 24, 27, 30 points. pretty good. I've scored less, definitely. 30 points is a fair score, especially when you bear in mind this is a team with only 4 models in it. So and the upper score ceiling is kind of curtailed by not only that but also the cards I chose to take. But yeah, onwards. Let's see how Penguin did. He's got a thick wad of cards, so let's see how they go. 2, 4, 6, 9, 12, 14, 17, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 31, 33, and 36 points. So 36 points to 31, I think it was, for the Bat family. Either way, whether it's 30 or it's 30 points for the Bat family. God, I forgot already. No, 36 to 30. Wow, that's a victory for Penguin, and the first time I've used him as a crew as well. Wow, I don't even think I necessarily played him particularly well. There were certain key points where I think the things could have gone better for the Bat family overall, in terms of, do I think it was a deserved victory or not? I mean, yes, it was, but there was some crucial bits of 50-50s that if it had gone to the Bat family might have made it a lot more close than it was in the end. For example, Red Hood not coming back to consciousness, and then the Bat family losing the initiative on that last turn really cost them a few points, because they were going to go for this chap and get him out of there and arrest him and score 5 victory points from that alone, really. But it wasn't to be. It's you can't always just bank on having all of that going your way. You've got to deal with setbacks, haven't you? Also, Robin being taken down in tandem, that was me just getting to grips with how the Penguin works as a crew and an actual figure as well, with his mob trait. That's a powerful trait, that one, once you get the head around it. What do I think? The Penguin deck is really good. Penguin objective deck, that is. I enjoy it. It's got a very own little flavour, and the more I use it, I'm sure the more it will become even more apparent. A bit like the Court of Owls, I really got into them once I knew what they were doing. Just the Penguins crew is really good. The business counters add so much, and they really do suit a high model count crew as well, because you accrue them when your opponent takes down your easy to kill henchmen just so quickly, and and then you spend them just to make everything better. Having the Penguins Iceberg Lounge 4 cards to choose from as well, just a great little twist on how things work. It really sets them apart. I was a bit worried that Penguin would end up too much like organised crime. I actually always used to think that Penguin should be part of the organised crime faction, certainly more than Two-Face was in 2nd edition, because he just operates in the same way that they do, in my opinion. But no, his separate objective deck really suits his character and personality and his overall viciousness, and the way he can use his crew better, in different ways to your average mobsters. Obviously, things I should have done with Penguin is to take bodyguards. He's so influential on the board that he powers up your henchmen so much. He is just a great target. He's like taking out the necromancer in an undead army in fantasy. If you take, the rest of the crew suffers quite heavily without his ability to do all the things that he can do. So yes, take bodyguards, or put him on that massive duck to give him that bit more survivability, because he kind of needs to be in amongst your crew, which kind of means he has to be exposed to danger in order to get the best use out of him. It's a risk-reward thing. You can't just leave him at the back like, say, Lex Luthor or something. He's certainly a great model and a really good addition to the game. Don't know if you'll see him quite so often on my channel as you might like, if you did enjoy him. It's just that high model count crews tend to take longer to film and thus make for longer videos, which will probably get boring for some people. But I do like him, and as I get more used to him, hopefully you'll see more of him. Okay, I've got to try him out against a more standard crew some point, definitely. I hope you enjoyed this game. Anything that I missed or you think was really good, let me know, especially the really good bits, inflate my ego. But no, if there's any comments you want to leave or anything, that's always appreciated. I'm Shieldwall100. I really enjoyed this game, and I hope you did too. Lots more to see in the future, I hope too. Okay, you take care. Goodbye.